Hey everybody, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today I'm starting a new little series that I'm calling UI Experiments. Now, you know, like for instance, if you're working in Adobe XD or Figma and you see some sort of really cool prototype maybe somebody did, but you're not quite sure how to realize that in HTML and CSS and JavaScript, well, that's exactly what this little series is about, is to show you that not only can you make a lot of these cool prototypes with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but they can actually be better. So look at this example that we're going to tackle today. We click on it and it has like this little sequence animation. Well, it looks so much better fully realized in the browser, and this is a hover-based one. So watch what happens here. Very smooth, very easy. I just love playing around with this, and it looks even better like in real life. Like there's a frame rate limit on this video, so it's so much more smooth. Check out the code pen just to play around with this. And I'm going to be using GSAP to help with these animations. So, you know, once again, we're going to tackle doing this completely in Adobe XD for a prototype, and then HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'll show you exactly how this is all done. All right, so if you enjoy this, make sure to subscribe and let's get started. This year, my friends at Scrimba have created a coding advent calendar, 24 days of JavaScriptmas, where they're giving away $3,000 worth of Scrimba memberships plus a $1,000 cash prize on Christmas Eve. And the way you can win all of this is simply by improving your JavaScript skills. It's almost as if you get paid to learn. They will give you a daily JavaScript challenge that will level up your skills a little bit every single day. And when you submit your solution, they'll pick a winner who will get free access to Scrimba for a year worth $150. Plus, one of the submissions will get $1,000 on Christmas Eve and a lifetime Scrimba membership. So check out the top link here in YouTube. All right, so I have a Web 1920 artboard here in Adobe XD. You can use Figma, anything else that has just basic prototyping abilities. And we're gonna make the background just a very light gray right around there. We're gonna have a rectangle right there that's white. And then on top of it, we're gonna have just some type that says something like your guide to the hot zone, whatever that means. I have no clue where that came from my brain. We're gonna use Poppins. I like Poppins lately. Poppins font. It's free. You can download it from Google if you wish. Make that bold, and we will make it bigger. Just right around there. I kind of like that. All right, that's good. That's all I'm gonna have. It's just kind of like this little offset design element. You know, this is supposed to be like a full user interface or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned about that. Now, what I want to do now is just duplicate this and design the end state of what I want it to look like after animations have occurred. So for that, I'm just going to push this over. You know what? Okay, I'm thinking to myself, maybe not quite as much white space. So I'm going to take this right there. Okay, so now we'll go back, duplicate that. There we go. Now we'll drag this over here. We're going to make this some sort of like blue. That works. This will transition to white. And then also we'll have a paragraph of type in here as well. So we'll bring that down to like around, let's just go like 20, and we'll make it regular. All right. And then we will pull this down. It's kind of hard to see because it's already on blue. It's blue on blue. And then we will have lorem ipsum text. So where's my plugins? And that, what? Looks like these little icons changed. Interesting. Quick lorem ipsum. There we go. And then we will, right around there is fine. All right. And then maybe, and the reason I offset it over here is because I just kind of want to have a border for the heck of it. I mean, you don't have to, but it's just something I wanted to do. Alrighty. So we'll take this background color and just make it darker. Let's push this out a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit excessive for the line height. Yeah, a little bit higher. There we go. And then we'll reposition this. And again, this is just for preview. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll take these two elements and maybe push them down. Yeah, something like that. Just for us to get a general idea. So now at this point, now that we know what the beginning state looks like and what the end state looks like, we can now get this going. So the first step, knowing what are the limitations here in Adobe XD and many other design prototyping software when compared to like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript animations, is when it comes to auto animate here, you can't do like multiple sequence animations at the same time. So this is going to have to be more simplistic than what we actually do in the browser. So with that said, what I will do is I'm going to take this and copy it and then paste it right here, because we have to have this layer available to us. And we're going to make it grow from this tiny amount here and also take the opacity 0. So now we can duplicate this, and we will push this one, or rather we will take this one over here. Uh-oh. It's kind of hard. There we go. Let's get the opacity up. And we are going to have to rearrange the layer order. So the type needs to be on top of both. Same thing over here. All right. And then the other thing that has to animate, I'm going to hide this temporarily, is this one will go all the way to the left. And I made it a little bit too far. There we go. Perfect. And this will also change to white. All right, so that's the first kind of sequence. And then we're going to have a third one where these two elements, I'm going to copy them and then paste them right here. And initially, I think what we'll do for this, how are we going to have this one animate in? I think, we'll just do this. Push that all the way up there and then make the opacity 0. And then this one will be as well pushed all the way up and opacity 0. So then we'll have a time-based trigger, which this will automatically push to this artboard. We're going to bring the opacity up, pull it down, and then also our other element, which is like right here. Trying to find which one I need here. Oh, it's this one. There we go. Sorry about that. Pull it down and opacity up. Right to there. All right, so now let's go ahead and prototype these up. This will just be a click trigger, although it's going to be a hover-based trigger later. So tap and auto animate. Let's do point like 6 seconds. And then also this one is going to be a time-based with a 0 delay, 0.6 seconds. All right, let's try that. It should work. So hit play, click. There we go. It's not going to be as good looking as it will be in the browser, but at least we have a really, pretty solid idea of what's going to happen. All right, awesome. So now let's make this a reality. We're going to hop into, if I can find it, Visual Studio Code. And I have an empty folder. As you can see, there's no files. We're going to create an index.html. We're going to create a CSS folder, a main.css. We're not going to use Sass this time. And then we were exclamation point enter just to get some initial HTML, link, CSS, main.css. All right, so the markup, the HTML markup for this portion, I'm looking on my reference monitor. That's my head's the other way. It's actually very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to do a class of card and an ID of card as well. All right, so those are abbreviations, so I don't have to type as much. As a whole little crash course I made. You can do a channel search for that. And the reason I'm making an ID for card, people are messaging me, get out of here. An ID for card is because we're going to reference that in JavaScript, which is the final step of this process. First, we need to get the HTML markup and then make it look good with CSS, and then we'll animate it. All right, so H1, your guide to the hot zone, and then some lorem ipsum. So you can type in like a lorem 15 or lorem 30. I forget how many I used, so I'm going to just copy and paste this amount off the side. All right. We're also going to right click and open with live server. which will momentarily load up. There we go. All right, so this is the ugliness that it is right now. What we'll do now is hop into the CSS. All right, so for the CSS, we're gonna have a body, a height of 100 viewport height, a background of E8, E8, E8. There we go. And then a font family of Poppins, which I already have installed on my machine, so I don't have to worry about importing it. I'm not too worried about that. Normally, if this is live, you want to import the font. Display grid and place content center. All right, so here's what we have so far. All right, after that, I decided to do something a little bit additional to the design. I don't know why, I just felt compelled to do it. And this is what I did. This is what this next CSS markup is going to be for. Take this and then just push it here. Like, I don't know, I just wanted to do that. So that's what we're doing. In fact, I'm just going to copy and paste that off. So we're using the before pseudo element. You know, this is the whole trick of content empty, position absolute, width 62%, background is this color code, which is slightly darker than that. Top 0, height 100 viewport height. Z-index is -7 because we're going to be using several of these before and after selectors to make this work. So this is what that looks like right there. All right, after that, our container. So just look at, oh, we don't have a container. All right, our card rather, our class of card. So our card is going to be, you know, I was having I was kind of getting annoyed with something, and I'll show you in a second, but let me just show you, let's just do this markup initially, 30%. So for 30%, I always thought that the place content center would make this center there vertically. It worked before, I swear it did, but I had to add margin 0 auto to get that centered. Very frustrating anyways. We're also going to do a min width on this of 500 pixels, because I want this to be more just like a full desktop version like that. So it's not going to get any thinner than that. If you wanted to make it responsive, you could, but I'm not entirely interested for this, you know, quick example here. Outside of that, let me get this structured so that we can see it, so I don't have to flip back and forth all the time. There we go, that's better. All right, so for the card also, let's get some padding in there. Padding is going to be 3M units. We're going to do cursor pointer. So now we hover over it, we get the pointer icon. And then also position relative. All right, so this is the parent element, position relative, and then we're going to reference the card before and card after selector. And the reason I'm doing that is because if we go back here, we'll see that we have, let's just imagine that this whole container right here is the card class container. And then we have one background here and then another background here. And they're going to be like, this one's going to come from this way and the other one's going to come from the other way. And we're going to achieve that with the before and after pseudo selector on the card class, if that makes sense. All right, so for both of these, again, we're going to be using this bit right here. So these three, whenever you want to do something like this, this is almost always standard. You put position relative on the parent container, and then you put content empty with position absolute on your pseudo selectors. So we're going to put height 300 pixels, width is going to be 34%, background is going to be white. All right. Also, we're going to do top 0, right 0 rather. So right now we're positioning that you know, that initial block, and then z-index is going to be -2. All right. Also, our H1, let's put a margin 0 on that. There we go. So now it's kind of looking almost like, you know, what we had before in Adobe XD. So after this, we have to reference the card after selector. So card after. Now it's already referenced up here, but we need to change some things. Like the width is going to be a 0 initially. Now if we change this to like 30% and also background a similar color to what we were using before, and then also this time left 0 instead of right 0, and then z index we'll just put -1. That way it'll sit on top of this -2, the white one. So initially we want this to be 0 though. I was just doing that so we could see it. All right, now our paragraph we're going to put in, I wanted to animate it more interesting, and animating clip path is really fun, the clip path property. So I'm going to do a clip path of circle. So there's different types. There's like a polygon. There's a bunch of other types. I'm just going to put 0%, and I'm going to put that at 100% and 0. So now it disappears, and if we change this value to like 50%, you'll see there's like a little circle cut off here. So this positions it over to the right, and we're going to animate that in when the time comes. Then we have a bunch of other stuff. For now, let's reveal the whole thing, or almost the whole thing. We really had to have to put this like 140. There we go. Almost. It's cutting off that G. Anyway, don't pay attention to me. We're going to put color white because when it shows up, it's going to be that blue background. In fact, if we do 100%, let's just do that temporarily. Yeah, there we go. So color white here. Font size will be 0.9 em units. Line height will be 1.6 em units. Margin will be 0. Padding will be 1.5 em units, 0, 0, and then 3 on the left. And then position will be relative because we're going to do that, another pseudo selector. Transform, translate, X. I decided I wanted to also animate the actual physical position of it as well. And then we're going to do, this is our final, I think this is our final rule set right here. So the CSS is almost done. Again, I hate typing those two elements out, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to do height of like 80%. This is going to give us that little border to the left of it. Let's do top, 2 em units, left 0, width 5 pixels, and background dark blue works pretty well. Now the reason that's showing up is because of this. There we go. All right, so at least that's designed, but we have to basically make this go back to 0. And that's good. All right. Oh, and this has to be 0 as well. Okay, so this is our starting point, and we're done with the CSS. Now it's the fun part, the final part, which is getting GSAP CDN, is getting the JavaScript ready. So we want 2 different plugins here. We want the main GSAP right here, so copy that script tag. And we also want the role plugin. We're going to copy this, and I'll describe what this role plugin is and why we included it here in a second. All right, so for our JavaScript, we have to get our card, right? We have to create a variable for that. So var card equals document.getElement by ID card. That's simple. We're also going to, now here's where this roles plugin comes in. So the role plugin allows you to animate these before and after selectors, okay? If you didn't include this role plugin, it wouldn't work because JavaScript itself doesn't have a way to access those selectors in order to animate and work with them. This role plugin allows you to do that. So here's how that works. It's really simple. We just put a var role equals CSS role plugin get role, and we want to get it for the card class for the before. We want to replicate that with Shift Alt and down. This will be after. We'll just call this role 2. We could have named them something better like before and after, but I'm lazy. And then we're going to have to create a timeline with GSAP. Now, if you're not sure what Greenstock Animation Platform is, I have so many videos on it. It's a very powerful animation library for your websites and apps. And so the timeline, when you create a timeline, it allows you to create complex sequence-based animations that you can play, reverse, pause, rewind, blah, blah, blah. So this is very simple. var, we create a var of time TL for timeline, gsap.timeline, and then we can optionally put in some defaults. You could just leave it like this because they all have default values, but if you want to override them, we're going to put in a default, and we're going to change the default easing to one called power 2 in out. And it just changed how the animation reacts. This is why I also have this over here, the easings. If you type in GSAP easings in Google, you'll find this page, and it just gives you, like here's power 2, there's power 3, 4, elastic, like you can make your animations bounce. We're going to be using back actually for one of the animations. Let's go back here. All right, now we're going to create the actual animations in the timeline right here. So what we're going to say is timeline 2. Now there's a to method and there's the from method. Any of the properties and the values that you specify in here, if it says, if we're using to, it's going to say go from whatever is here to these values that we're about to specify in JavaScript. You can also do from though. You can put from here instead, and then it'll say from any of these values, go to this. So depending on your use case, you'll switch back and forth from and to, depending on what you need. So to, we're going to put role here because this first parameter of the to and the from method is the selector that you want. And we want this one, which is right here, defined by the CSS rule plugin, because that's the first one that we want to animate. We want to animate this background right here, this white block. All right, so after that, we put in an object, and here's where our properties go. So we're going to say width 100%. Now, nothing's going to happen, right? Well, actually, it will, except the problem is we want this to be based on a hover. So hover over this, and that stuff happens. But we don't have an event listener that, you know, covers this. This is just going to run right when, you know, this plays. So what we do is we put in timeline.pause right here. So when we do that, guess what? It's not going to play. All right. Now, we have a lot more animation, of course, but I just wanted to show you the hover portion, which is very simple. So we take our card, we say card to add event listener, mouse enter, all right? And then we open up an arrow function here, and we say timeline.play. Look at that. Save it. There we go. Now when we come back out, nothing happens. We want it to reverse, right? Of course we do. So we're going to copy this, and we simply say mouse leave, and we say reverse. So now watch this. And it even stops halfway. It works awesomely. All right, so now we can go back to our timeline here and start adding more, you know, different to methods here to create more animation. So timeline 2, we'll say roll to, which is the after, that's the blue part. We're going to say width 100%. All right, now let's check that out. Look at that. And it all works well because the z-index 1 was applied to the blue, and this one was 2. Now, if you want these to come in a little bit faster, we can add an offset here, in the third parameter. We put, if we want to have less time for it to start, and to have it start like when the first one is running, we put minus equals. If you want it to start a little bit after, or even more so after, you put a plus equals. So minus equals, and then the amount of time, so like 0.3 seconds. So it's going to come in a lot faster now. See that? So awesome. Okay. So after that, we need to make this white, right? So we're going to put in another TL2. We're going to say H1, that's our selector. We're going to say color white. And we're also doing offset here. Well, let's just wait for that, just so I can show you. All right, we want that to turn white while that blue thing is kind of transitioning into the right. So we do another offset. I found that negative 0.7 works. Look at that. Love it. And then we'll also have one more, and that's the paragraph. This one's going to be a little bit more complex. So we're going to say to paragraph. All right, so we're going to take clip path. Now, normally you might think, oh, maybe we should put in the actual clip path property like that. First, that doesn't work. If there's ever a hyphen or a dash, in JavaScript, it needs to be camel case, and you have to put it in quotes. So clip path like that. And that's true for any CSS property. Like background hyphen color would look like background color, okay? All right, so clip path, and then we're gonna say circle. Now remember, it's like 0% right now at like 100%, 0 or whatever. This is gonna be 140% at 0%, 100%. Oops. All right, and then we're also gonna do an offset of, negative offset of 0.3. All right, so that's pretty cool. I like that. I decided to do a little bit more experimentation with adding a couple more properties just to show that you can. Like we can do transform, translate X, 0, because remember we use translate X over here and we have 20 pixels. So we're just resetting it to the original over there. So if we do this, now it kind of slides into. You can do other stuff like we can use a custom easing. Remember, you know, right now default is power to and out. You know, we could put our own custom easing specifically for this. So if I do this, notice how it kind of backs. It backs out. And then we could also change the duration like to 1 if we want, which makes it a little bit longer. In fact, I don't really like that though. And this is it. So coming out here, that is it. So we got, you know, fairly close. Let's take a look at the actual, where is it at? Right here? No, wait, I have 2 of these up right now. Sorry about that. There we go. Let's take a look at the, this part, and let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, the browser version is so much more cool, I have to say. All right, awesome stuff. So if you enjoyed that and you want to see more of these kind of quick, you know, prototyping from XD or Figma or whatever to realizing it in actual code, let me know if you want to see more of these little UI experiments. All right, as always, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.